down in the bottom left corner of Oregon today, just outside of Coos Bay, even though this is still technically Coos Bay, but kind of the southeast corner of Coos Bay. Heading out to JGS to see how reamers are made and to have them answer questions from my Patreon group. So we're going to be getting a behind-the-scenes tour, and I've never been here before. It's definitely out there, so we'll be there in about 10 minutes and see what happens. This is just beautiful. We're out here kind of in the hills, and it's just beautiful. If you've never been in the Oregon mountains, there's nothing quite like it. Just absolutely gorgeous terrain out there. Check this out. JGS Precision. So this is going to be a really cool little tour. I don't know what they're going to let me see or not see. Obviously, there's going to be proprietary stuff in here. We're going to go in and meet Brad and then get a little walk around the shop and see what we can come up with. But I mean, we're out here in the southwest corner of Oregon. It's absolutely beautiful country out here. If you've never been out, it's just quiet and still and lush and just amazing. So, all right, let's head inside and see what's going on. All right, I am here with Lance, one of the owners of JGS, and he has asked us not to be on camera, and that's fine. But he does have some really great history that I wanted to share about JGS. So, Lance, how did JGS get started?
JGS was originally stood for Jim's Gun Shop. Basically, in town here on the Oregon coast. After he got out of the Navy, came in and made custom hunting rifles. Did a lot of gunsmithing. And my mom married my dad, and he was a job shop machinist in town, welder, machinist, Ken Humbert. And pretty much from there, they devised, with all of his knowledge of doing barrels and chambering and everything, that they one other person that was in the mix was Keith Francis, and he had Francis Tooling. That's where they kind of got started on reamers, and basically kind of went in there and eventually started making reamers, hand fluting and turning, and everything was done originally by hand.
And what year was that? How long ago was that?
My mom knows. Was that my mom Becky here?
When did you guys officially start kind of making reamers?
1979.
79.
What year? So this is Mom?
Yes.
You're not on camera.
Okay. My dad started the company.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were Jim's Gun Shop in 1954.
Wow. This has been a family business for a long time.
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
Still all family owned.
That's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you guys giving me a chance to come in here. I know it's never easy opening your doors to something like this, but I'm such a big fan, and I know a lot of the guys I shoot with are just huge fans, and this is a kind of a look into a world that most people don't get to see. So thank you. All right, so we are in one of the little storerooms here, and we've got carbide blanks. So these all need to be cut still, and you can see they're all listed by different numbers for them, so they know what to do with them. And there's everything over here too. These are all the gauges. Go, no go.
They're blanks.
They're blanks to make go-no-goes?
We just got to headspace them.
Okay. And these are all the steel right here. So we got a bunch of steel and we got a bunch of carbide. So as we're looking at this, we always hear carbide versus steel. What would somebody choose, a carbide versus steel? Like if I'm just an individual, what do you guys usually recommend people go with?
If you're doing 1 or 2 barrels, steel.
Okay.
Kind of your home gunsmith.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value in a steel reamer. You're going to get everything you need.
Okay.
And even, we've never stole, resharp, and we have some reamers come in, or some of the first ones we just seen earlier this year, some of the first ones we ever did.
Really? So like 30, 40 years old?
Yeah.
Wow. And so carbide is more, it sounds like it's more of like a production type reamer.
If you have a shop, and probably would start at that shop where it's CNC or, sizable equipment, and you have the rigidity and you need to make, 10, 20 barrels, carbide starts going to carbide.
So if I'm a gunsmith that does like hunting barrels and I do a lot of 28 nozzlers, I would probably grab a carbide bit.
You might, yeah.
Do something like that. Okay. Yeah, my experience has always been with the steel tools. So, you know, I've never really had any experience with the carbides, but I know a few guys that have them, and
I think a lot of that doesn't really change the precision of it.
yeah, okay,
You know, either way, it cuts the same chamber.
Yep.
okay. This is a really cool building. So this is actually the old elementary that was out here, and it's now been repurposed many years ago to be the JGS facility. And I didn't realize that when I drove up. I thought it kind of looked like an interesting building, but I've been informed that it is actually the old elementary school. So this is an original mosaic made by the class of 1981-82, fifth grade class, and it's still hanging here in the halls. So where are we now?
We're downstairs in the machine shop. We do all our steel tools down here from blank bar stock.
Okay.
We mill them. We lay them, then we mill the flutes, and then we heat treat them to make those blanks that you saw in that tool crib room.
Okay, so all those steel blanks that we just saw are actually made in-house right here.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the carbide ones, you guys get those sent in?
Yeah, we order those from a different vendor.
Okay. All right, well that's very cool. So this is just this is strictly where they're going to be making all those blanks. So this is apparently a vacuum heat treater, and these are the jigs they use to hold the reamer, the blanks on to heat treat them. And it's just you know, it just shows you that it's just really good machinery to get the job done. So I'm assuming maintenance is a big part of your guys' business, right? You guys probably 2 guys full-time maintenance. Yeah, because I mean, and they work on everything, right? This kind of stuff, the mills, the lathes, everything.
We rebuild everything for this in-house. See, it's running a cycle right now. It's got vacuum drawn and it's heating tools.
All right, this is just one of their mills running here. Again, this is down in the production side, and not sure exactly what that is, but man, I love watching these things run. So we were just talking about this, and it's a hand grinder, and to this day there are still some of the reamers that they hand grind, which I mean, I can't even imagine the level of experience you'd need to do that. What are we looking at here, Brad?
This is our steel tools, all of our custom one-off tools waiting to be sharpened.
So if I place an order, my name goes into a box somewhere on this list at some point and gets moved through the process?
Yep, and we work by due dates.
Wow. So when people say, how come it's 12 to 16 weeks, this is why.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot of orders. And this is just the ones that are waiting for like the sharpening and stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you guys match a blank to the print, it gets worked on a little bit and then thrown into this, and this goes to the next step.
Right.
Okay. So this machine here is where all the gauges are made?
Yeah, we do the diameter and the end grind on the CNC, and then he uses his hand grinder to do the head spacing.
Wow. It's amazing how much is still done by hand grinding and to such exact tolerances.
Yep.
Wow.
You see?
Okay, so these are all CNC grinders?
Yes.
All circle grinding.
They're circle grinding?
Circle grind, yeah.
Doing the profile of the tool.
Okay, so the profile
Circle grinding
of
the
tool.
profile.
Okay. And so without getting people on camera here, this is somebody working on one real quick. And so there's quite a few back here.
Yeah. We got like, how many CNCs we have? 23?
Yeah.
About 23 CNCs.
Okay, about 23 CNCs total. I mean, that's a lot. And I mean, obviously goes to show your production level and commitment to quality. What am I looking at here?
So, here's the grinder.
Okay.
In here. And the operator can stack tools in these red pallets. And that yellow robotic arm will grab the tool, put it in the chuck, grind it, and then change to the next tool.
Wow.
We can leave it on overnight when we're not here. It'll grind tools for us. It's just, he's doing flute grinding.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
It's capable as the rest of our sharpening machines, but we get a lot of. It's a flute grind's pretty consistent. It's something we can let run overnight. Get a lot of tools done. Nobody's here.
So this is the same as that other rack that we saw, except for all the carbide tools?
These are carbide waiting for whatever their next process is. Not
Okay.
just sharpening, but other processes.
Okay. I mean, just a ton.
Grind.
Yeah.
He does the same thing in here. He does flute grind.
Okay.
And then there's the two-hand machines. That's what he does all the spirals on.
Wow.
And those are old school. That's how they used to sharpen drill bits and mills and and cutting tools.
So like somebody who's using this machine, how many years of experience do they have?
Not a lot. How long's Caleb been here? 2 years? 3?
Yeah, it's more about the people that are kind of guiding them.
Yeah.
It's really the
user that matters.
They said hand back off. You can start hand back. They can get a lot of people to start hand back off. It's just one step because it's a one step at a time process.
Okay.
All these machines, even manual, CNC, the setup is the key. Key to everything, and watching as you're going, and checks as you go.
This is just
obviously
it's insane, just crazy to me.
This is our old honing bushing machine. They'll do a lot of. Every once in a while, we do some custom bushing.
We make large bushings. So these are custom ones,
Yeah.
but we made these downstairs. So now we'll hone the OD to within 2/10, and then they'll get the ID within 2/10. Then they'll do the outside -2.
Okay.
Back in the day, we used to do every bushing on this.
We
thing.
buy bushing blanks now.
Oh,
This
okay.
is the
Other than the
not
big ones and custom ones we do downstairs.
the most unfun job in the shop, because basically you got a pin and you're sticking your hands are in the oils all the time. You go home smelling like it.
Wow.
The honing oils now. That's very odoriferous.
Yeah.
These are steel, so this is something we made downstairs.
Wow. So you made the blanks, then cut the flutes.
So right
and-
now it's getting the grind on the
On the cutting side of the flute.
Okay.
we grind everything pretty much.
Yeah, after it comes up from machine shop, it's all grinding.
And so that brings me up to, one of my Patreon people had asked, you guys obviously resharpen your own tools. You also resharpen other brands of reamers if people
Yes.
send them in.
Yep.
And so when they do that, do they have to send a reamer print with it, or can they just send a reamer and you guys like measure it out and know how to resharpen it?
Yes and no. Usually when we get resharps, they're SAMI kind of standard parts, so we just pull the part number right off out of our prints. Yeah, they don't send prints in; they just send us the reamer, and it's engraved on the bottom, so we can see what it is, what caliber. And then sometimes they switch it too. They might send us a generic reamer, and in the process of resharpening, they'll adjust their neck size,
Oh, okay.
something like that.
Okay. And then, basically the process, we were kind of talking about this earlier, but the process of sharpening is almost the same as making an actual reamer, right? I mean, like when you're resharpening, you're not just sharpening the flutes.
Yes.
All
All you're doing is sharpening the cutting edge of the flute. You don't have to re-flute it.
Okay.
So you're doing the last process. We'll go in that room next and back off. And we call it back off when they cut the relief and the cutting edge.
Okay.
If it's a really big rework or they're setting it real far back, setting it back, they will go. But in these newer 5-axis machines, they can actually set up have a wheel where they can actually cylindrically grind the profile and redo.
Yeah.
If you have enough time, they can take a piece of stock and they can actually make a reamer from
it'll
stock.
cut flutes and everything on the machines in the next room.
So like
they're
a
really
normal,
amazing.
like my 284 reamer that you guys made for me, it's steel. Realistically, how many times can a tool like that get sharpened before you'd have to make a brand new one?
You have to push it back. So if bolt face is right here and your neck is, let's say, 400 thou, you're going to have to push it back about 400 thou each time. So some reamers can get sharpened 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
Well, we make sure that they have at least one sharp.
Okay.
We just by design, all of ours have enough to be resharpened.
They have enough length in them where when they kind of...
Kind of depends whether you're working on how it stacks up from the length of the original reamer to the length of the cartridge.
And how much taper the body has, because the more taper, the easier it is to push it back less.
Oh, okay.
So
I gotcha.
And the amount of neck length and everything.
Oh,
Some of these old cartridges have a really long necks. You're not going to get much. You're not going to get much out of them.
So what are we?
This would be like on the
This
on
is-
the floor measuring.
this is
machine.
called an optical comparator.
Okay.
And what it's going to do is shoot light over the horizon of the tool. Here I am messing with this. I hope you didn't need it in that place. So what you're seeing here is a silhouette of the tool.
Oh. Oh, wow.
There's the flutes coming around. So we can put that OD right there and measure it to within a couple of tenths.
Wow.
Is that 100 power or?
I don't know what this one is. We have a couple big ones too, but this is a small one. That's how we, like these spirals, you can't put a micrometer on them because they're round. So
Yeah.
we measure the OD and the comparator.
And also we get, then also it's 3 flutes, so it's really.
3 foot makes it worse. We can check for run out, like
Everything's based off between the centers and the ends of the tools.
Okay, so off the centers and the end of the tool. That's
Most things off of the centers.
so. Here's a pilot, and you can put it down there.
so it's right on that horizontal line.
Yeah, and then rotate it, and see how it doesn't move.
Yeah.
It's concentric to the centers.
Wow.
And that's where we keep our tools concentric, and we have tight tolerances, and that's why, it's a big reason why we have such good luck with them, why they work for guys.
Who is this? Shiva. Yeah. All right. Quality control. All right. Yeah. Come on. Hey, any place that lets dogs in the workplace has got to be a good place. Okay, so this is actually sharpening a reamer. And so is that the final, like before, like obviously quality checks, but like is that the last process in making a reamer?
Other than size pilots, because the pilot's so small, we leave it 50 thou over to give it rigidity so we can sharpen it straight. Then we take it over and take it down to the 1092 diameter.
Oh, okay.
And put a snap ring groove in it, and then it's done.
Generally 99%. This is pretty much the last phase.
Most of them are done coming out of here. They go straight to inspection.
Okay.
We got 3 of these machines, they're all the same, 3 operators.
Running all the time, huh?
Yep.
As you can see, it's X, Y, Z, A, B.
Yeah.
Basically 5-axis. Wheel can be tilted anywhere, and these, like I said before, these things can almost make a reamer from a piece of stock.
And these are, I mean, this is literally where all the magic happens. Wow. So what room are we in here?
Nathan got scared and ran. This is inspection.
Okay. So these are all finished reamers over here?
Yeah, those are all waiting to be inspected.
Or tools, I should say,
Tools,
not
yeah.
just reamers.
Right, because we do form tools too, a lot of these.
Oh, okay.
Crowning tools, center
All
reamers.
their muzzle.
And
Muscle
everything,
crowning.
I didn't ask, but everything you guys do is gun related. It's gauges, it's bushings, it's reamers. I mean, that's really your business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, the reamers is the thing.
So there's another one of those
Comparators. Yeah.
comparators over there.
And then we have this one. This machine here does the same thing with the camera looking down over the horizon.
Uh-huh.
And it shows it over here. And it'll measure to 5 digits, I think. 1, 2,
Wow.
3, 4, 5, 6.
Wow.
This gives us our certification.
So this is how we certify gauges. We measure our gauges to build them, but then we can also certify them because we have this certified.
That's
all gauges, you see bringing in here per gauge, checking a lot of them.
wow.
Very high percentage.
That's inspection right there.
This is inspection.
That's
So
right. Those are bushings up there and snap rings and screws and the thing. This is where you.
so every tool, no matter what, gets touched by this guy.
Yes.
Wow.
And we have a stoning fixture.
And so is the process of inspection against the print itself? Like they have a copy of the print that obviously follows
Yes.
the whole way.
This is the traveler that gives us our information for the software,
Yeah.
and then on the back there's a couple of prints.
Okay.
It's the same ones the guys use in the shop, and then he uses them to inspect the tool too.
Very, very interesting.
This is our little laser engraver. That's how we do the
Oh yeah.
engrave the back of it.
Yeah. Wow. Very neat.
That's about it. That over there is just another backup laser.
Backup laser. Yeah. You always got to have an extra, right?
We started sweating. Well, we've had that thing. Like some weird things happen. Like a cable came unplugged, and like having the laser.
Well, here we are walking down the halls of the school, and we're going to head back to Brad's office, and he's going to answer a couple questions for us.
the standard print.
Okay.
Well, it's a custom print. Did you change the neck or
I
something?
changed. I went to a 320 neck. I think my lead angle's the same. I think I'm at a 1.5 lead on that, and I think my 200 line was pretty much standard. I don't think I really changed much on this other than going to 320 neck. So when somebody calls, I mean, obviously somebody wants to get a reamer made, they really should talk to their gunsmith, because the gunsmiths are really the ones that are going to kind of help guide them on lead angles, free bore, neck diameter, stuff like that. But if somebody calls and says, hey, I don't know how to talk to my gunsmith, what dimensions or what numbers should I be asking my gunsmith about? What do you typically tell people?
Well, the things that changed from Sammy are the neck diameters.
Okay.
Some of them are tapered. That's why there's two measurements.
Okay.
And then the free bore diameter, or excuse me, the throat diameter.
Okay.
And then the free bore length and the lead angle.
Okay.
Those are things that commonly get changed. All those custom steel tools out on that rack in the hallway. That's the type of changes they have.
And so with the free bore, that's probably one of the ones I get asked about the most. Really, again, you want to talk to a gunsmith, but that's going to be largely based on like the bullet you're choosing to use.
Yeah, and your desired jump.
Yeah.
Some guys want a lot of jump, or some guys want little.
And you need to make sure that you kind of find that balance between jump and not being too far down inside the neck and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Okay. How about lead angle? Is that something that typically people don't mess with too much?
No, we get some, some guys will go like 2 degrees, or I think we might do 1 degree, but we don't. We just let the customer dictate what they want.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to tell you why you want one or the other.
And then neck diameter is probably the second most, aside from free bore, neck diameter is probably the second most thing that people kind of mess with or adjust, right?
Yeah, they'll turn their necks and change them, and definitely one that gets changed.
Have you seen, over the years, are there kind of trends? Like all of a sudden, for a couple of years, people will really mess with free bore, then they'll really mess with neck diameter. Like, do you see people kind of following trends, or does it kind of stay?
Yeah, I think it stays all over the board. Okay. I don't see trends.
Okay. Great. And if somebody gets a reamer, obviously they can call in and say, hey, help walk me through this print, help me understand these numbers, and you guys are great.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll send a Sammy print out ahead, and then you can look it over and make your adjustments, and then it'll come back and we'll make a custom print just for you.
Yeah, and I know I've had that happen where I'll say, hey, I'm looking for this reamer, but I want to change this and this and this, and then you guys will mock it up, send it back for approval, and then it goes into production. As of today, I mean, we're here in what are we in here? October or end of September of 2022. Lead times are running about 12 to 16 weeks, I think you said, for steel. And carbide is
16 to 20.
16 to 20, okay. And I think that's pretty in line with what you'd expect. It's one of those things where when you're getting a reamer made, it's not like you're typically you don't understand that, right? Like you get a reamer made, you just know it's going to take a little bit of time. It's not something that gets just popped out in a week.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for people that don't know, like if somebody called and said, hey, why should I have a reamer made versus my gunsmith? Do you guys give any kind of information like, hey, this is why you might want to own your own reamer or something like that?
No, we wouldn't recommend that. And almost always we talk to the gunsmith. We rarely talk to the customer.
Okay.
The shooter.
Okay.
So
if I didn't know what I was doing, I'd go to my gunsmith, say, hey, Terry, what are guys in my group using? He'd say, hey, I think they're mostly in this free bore, this neck diameter. And then if I said, great, I want to get a reamer made, he would kind of give you guys a call and say, hey, my customer's looking for this.
Yep.
And go from there. I know in my case, especially with a lot of these custom reamers, it's, there's a monetary and time, involvement. I think a lot of us, we try to find somebody that has a reamer that's really close to what we want to use, and maybe we lengthen the free bore, open up the neck or something, see how it shoots, and kind of tweak it from there, and then get a reamer made. I know that's what I did with one of mine recently.
Oh, okay.
So I had somebody that had something that was very close to what I was looking for. It just didn't have the 320 neck on it. It had a 317 neck, so he just put a neck reamer in there and opened it up a little bit, and it gave me a chance to try it, a little more instantly, and then obviously I could put the reamer into production once I knew that's what I was looking for. Okay, great. I appreciate you walking me through that. My Patreon people, we're going to just kind of put this down here for a second. So it's fuzzy. It's all blurred. So my Patreon people had a couple questions, and again, these are just questions. If there's something that is a little more proprietary, obviously we understand. Question for JGS: what is Datum? For context, I bought a used 284. The seller shared the JGS reamer print with me. Wanting to own my own reamer, I sent the print to JGS to have one made. They sent me back an altered print for approval. Painstakingly, I went through verifying the numbers, finding 3 differences on the ED, EL, and Datum. They explained ED and EL, but I was still a little confused about Datum. So maybe if we look at this print, we can answer that question, or is there a better way? Oh, we got a chalkboard. All right.
So a datum is just a random point, usually like on the taper, like this is the shoulder, and you pick a random point on there, and that'll be your distance, and then you measure across the to that point.
Okay.
It's just a random point on a reamer. The 200 line is a datum.
Oh, okay.
It's just a random
an arbitrary point.
Yeah, and it's what you're looking for is the width, the diameter at that point.
Okay, and only because he didn't. He didn't really specifically ask, but ED and EL, what are those? Just real quickly that he was asking about. So he says, I found 3 differences in the ED and EL. Oh, so he's quoting the actual.
I think he's.
Oh, he's quoting the actual numbers.
E
Yeah,
and D.
yeah.
E should be the same.
Okay.
D, the datum will change.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Sometimes when Sammy adopts a cartridge, they actually will pick their own datum.
Okay.
For some reason. So we have some old prints that are one datum, and then now that Sammy adopted the thing, we have to make both because we got old customers still wanting the old stuff.
Okay. I think I asked this already. Does JGS resharpen reamers made by someone else? Yes.
Yes.
We covered this. It's just a little bit extra charge, I think, for
Yes.
someone else's brand versus a JGS, right?
Correct.
Okay. We covered current lead times. There's a couple of questions about like optimal neck diameter, stuff like that. Really, those are going to be Gunsmith questions. JGS as a rule, we kind of talked about this. You guys don't give like actual advice on designing a cartridge, correct?
Yeah, we can't tell you why you want a longer free bore or why you want a looser neck. That's between the customer and the shooter and the gunsmith.
Okay. This is probably a question you get a lot. Like, why should I choose JGS? Compared to the competitors, what do you guys feel sets you apart from the competition?
I mean, really, as far as in the industry, I believe we're definitely currently one of the oldest brands.
Yeah.
As far as everything goes, and it's just reputation.
Yeah, we have a really good reputation, and that's from making a good product. We try our best to put out, the best thing we can. Strict tolerances.
Something that struck me kind of as we were walking around, and was it your mom that we ran into? Mm-hmm. And one of the things she said is we couldn't do what we do to the tolerances we do to the quality we do without the people we have. And it seems like it's a very, very, like just walking around with you, very people-oriented company.
Yeah. And we have an employee here who's been here 40 years.
Wow.
In this small company.
Wow.
We just... how long was Carrie here? 40?
Yeah, a little bit longer.
Yeah,
he was at the very
wow.
He was the original inspector.
Huh.
Trained by what we mentioned earlier, Keith Francis.
Yeah. So somebody asked, I've seen a reamer from another brand. Is it possible for you to clone that? It's kind of a tricky question, right?
No, we can measure the reamer and copy it.
Okay. He didn't know. So okay. So if I have a friend that shoots something and I get a loaded round, I can send it in. You guys can spec a reamer off it, right?
That's the best way to make a custom reamer.
Way.
Yeah, the preferred way is to send the dummy load in.
Okay.
And we can take measurements off of that, and then the chamber is built to your shell.
So if somebody sends in a dummy round, is that sized brass loaded as if I was going to shoot it?
Yeah, everything
Okay.
but the powder and the primer.
Okay.
Critical to have your seat depth all set and the
Bullet
the same bullet you're going to use. Yeah.
So if somebody wants to buy an off-the-shelf reamer from you, kind of like we talked about Sammy spec reamers that you make, that you just have available, are those going to fit the vast majority of dies that are on the market? If I go buy a set of Hornady or RCBS dies for 284 Winchester, and I buy a Sammy spec reamer from you, that all works together, right?
Yeah.
As far as I know, the die makers are all following Sammy or...
Yeah, as long as the die maker is following Sammy.
And that's the beauty of Sammy spec, right?
We use the same numbers, yeah.
Okay. And it's only once somebody deviates from that they could run into problems. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That'd be something else that we make too when you do get custom. We do sell a lot of die reamers, along with the roughers and everything else.
Like a sizing reamer. Yeah, I was going to ask you about
sizing
that.
dies.
To make size, to ream the sizing die.
Yeah. So talking about I just call them sizing reamers. I don't know what the technical name is, but to make a sizing reamer, you guys have a formula you apply to an existing reamer, and that turns it into a sizing die reamer.
Standards. We have a JGS. What is it? 1200?
I don't know. Is it just?
It's on our list.
But there's a standard reduction formula.
Yeah,
Yes.
I believe it's.
And unless somebody wants it custom.
Yeah.
Right.
And that'll just ensure that there's good sizing, no clickers, all that kind of stuff. Okay.
I believe it. Actually, there. It's like minus 4,000. Resizing reamer minus 4 thousandths on the body and minus 12 on the neck.
Okay.
So that's the
Yeah,
standard.
pretty simple. Okay. You hear the term roughing reamer, finish reamer, sometimes thrown around.
Right.
Is that a thing with JGS or?
Yes.
A roughing reamer is just 10,000 smaller than the finish reamer,
And so,
but
like,
it's the same profile.
so when I order a reamer, so when you guys send me a reamer, I always get one reamer.
Mm-hmm.
That's a finish reamer, correct?
Yes.
And so a roughing reamer is not always necessary.
The roughing reamer saves the life of your finish reamer
Oh, I gotcha.
because
Okay.
it's a 3 flute heavy duty, reamer, and you use it to take most of the meat out, and then your finish reamer just has to take that last 10 thou out, so it'll last longer.
Okay. So like in my case, if I'm kind of like, well, like let's just say I don't care. That's why a lot of guys just buy a finish reamer, let it run its life, and then move on.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
can get multiple barrel. I don't know how many, but I mean, you
I mean,
get
they're talking about 10, 20.
Oh, I'm on
10 or 20 on one reamer.
So on my 284
And then your
Mesa here, I
resharps.
think I'm on. So I let people borrow it too. I think I'm probably 15 or 20 right now,
There you
and
go.
no issues. But I know one thing that I've talked to my gunsmith about is a lot of how a reamer survives. Like a lot of people think, reamers are made bad or this or that or bad material. Gunsmiths can have a huge effect on the life of a
Absolutely.
reamer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have the best made reamer, and a gunsmith can blow it up in one try, right?
And
Yeah.
a lot of it, a lot of it hinges too on their equipment that they're using. And their
Speeds,
feel,
all that
coolant,
kind of
especially if they're
for
doing
oil.
it by hand. Yeah, oil flow, etc. Whether they're using rigid, whether they're using coolant or oil or
Yeah.
all those choices on your particular reaming setup.
It has an effect, yeah. I know my gunsmith is really easy on the reamers, and he's told me with my steel reamer, he goes, I'd expect 30 to 40, because that's been his his experience with the JGS. But again,
The people that are
everybody's
running more
mileage.
barrels, I would trust them. We just say that as kind of
Oh, sure,
rule of thumb.
yeah. Okay, so then somebody wants a sizing reamer. You guys already have that dialed in. Reamer holders, we had kind of touched on that when we were walking around.
Floating holders.
So floating holder versus a clip holder, right? Is that
a chuck or whatever?
Well, normally you would just put your reamer into a collet,
okay?
probably, or a chuck. The reamer comes out here, and this head floats.
Oh,
So this floats separate from this would be your Jacob's
It floats
or your Morse
up and
taper
down.
in your tailstock,
yeah.
and this lets it float. So it follows so if you don't have your barrel exactly centered, you have it 3 thou out around.
Yeah.
This will let it float to take up that 3 thou.
Well, when you're gun drilling, spoon drilling, basically when they're gun drilling and making barrels, depending on manufacturer, that bore can, it goes where it goes.
Yeah.
Theoretically, it goes perfectly to the center of rotation of turning, but
But that doesn't really ever happen.
does it get profiled? Typically when they're profiled, it's between centers, and you're going in and out of the machine, this and that, and it can definitely shift, and it's always My father was always, you want a floating holder because you want to chase the bore the whole way. So it's lined up perfectly with the bore, as far as...
Okay. This has a really good rep compared to
Really popular
some of the other
for us.
companies. This one, guys really like this.
We'll
What does a
rebuild them.
floating reamer like that run?
240.
240? Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
Yeah,
And then we rebuild them too for like $60.
Oh, wow.
We do a lot of that.
We've been making those for a real long time.
Yeah.
Okay. And we were talking a little bit about how carbide are attached with a clip as opposed to
On the bushing,
on the
yes.
bushing itself versus the steel, which are attached with
A screw.
a screw. Okay. And there's really no better or worse. It just happens to be that carbide you can't. I think you were saying you can't screw into the
You
back.
can't thread it.
Yeah.
You can't cut threads.
Okay. I know my gunsmith, the clips. He he would prefer to have a threaded, and I know on the carbide, sometimes they slip, and he always has to make sure he has extra clips around.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't pull it out without a bushing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see if we have any other questions here. I think as far as anything that's relevant to what we're looking at, I think that covers all my Patreon questions. So we got sizing reamer holders, stuff like that. Well, hey, look, Brad and Lance, I really appreciate the tour. I appreciate the time. You guys have been just absolutely awesome here, and I know you guys don't let a lot of people into your world, but I really appreciate the opportunity.
You got it.
All right. Well, you guys keep making some badass reamers for us. All right.
All right.
All right, time for the best part of this whole tour. Get to pick up my reamer. So we got 7 Wind Thumper. Oh, we haven't been in this one. This is shipping.
This is shipping and sales.
All right.
You have a good day. Bye. Howdy.
Good
Hello.
timing. Do you have John's reamer?
Right here.
Excellent.
I do.
There's
There it
my,
is.
there's my reamer. There's my little 7 Wind
ready.
Thumper. I realized after ordering it, that's the longest name to put on a reamer.
You can only do 12 characters. You picked all 12. You did good. You filled every space.
So now I just call it 7WT to make it short.
We can do that.
Oh, very cool. I'm super, super excited. Oh, what? Hey, hi. All right, well, we're going to get my reamer, and we're going to head home tomorrow and drop this off at my gunsmith and get some barrels cut. And that's it. There we go. I got my reamer. We got the tour. You guys got to see how the reamers are made. And, on one hand, I don't want to say it's a simple looking process, but, it's definitely a family feel in there. They've got some great machinery. They know what they're doing. And I think more than anything, they make it look easy. But man, I do not want to go in the business of making reamers because there was a lot to it. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. You guys have a good one. We'll talk later.